Light reaction. Remember, I think I said to you guys there's like three things happening simultaneously, so I'm going to kind of break them down into three steps. But the real story is they're all happening at once. So this circled area here that you circled is called non-cyclic electron flow. And that's the primary event that happens in the light reaction. And what that involves is both photosystems getting energized and water is being split. But I'm going to start at this end, just because I think it makes more sense. So imagine light strikes photosystem 1, all of the pigments get energized, they transfer their energy to the reaction center pigment, and that chlorophyll molecule gets so energized that it ejects 2 electrons, which are picked up by NADP. Now, that gives us a reduced molecule of NADPH, which is then going to be used in the Kelvin cycle, like you have it here. However, that photosystem is now missing 2 electrons because I sent them here. So while that's happening, this photosystem gets energized. Same thing, light strikes it. All the pigments get energized. They transfer their energy to the reaction center. It ejects 2 electrons. But its electrons start on this journey through the system of electron carriers that are embedded in the thylakoid membrane. And as they travel from photosystem 2 over to photosystem 1, 2 protons from the stroma are pumped into the interior of the thylakoid. So we're adding hydrogen ions to the interior of the thylakoid, which is going to create a high concentration of hydrogen ions inside. And the 2 electrons that are traveling from here are going to here to replace the 2 electrons that this guy sent to here. It's kind of like a game of musical chairs. These 2 electrons go here, the 2 electrons from here have gone to NADP. Now that still leaves photosystem 2 short 2 electrons. So water gets split at the same time. We call that photolysis. And not only does water get split, but the hydrogens get ionized. So separated into hydrogen ions, 2 electrons, and of course the oxygen. The 2 electrons replace the 2 electrons that photosystem 2 sent over to photosystem 1. The protons become part of this increasingly more concentrated hydrogen ion reservoir inside the thylakoid. And the oxygen from the splitting of water is the oxygen that plants give off as a byproduct of photosynthesis. So now, to put it all together, imagine that this is all happening at one simultaneous thing. Ultimately, really, the electrons are originating in water, we're splitting water, they're being transferred to photosystem 2, then to photosystem 1, and then to NADP to be used in the Kelvin cycle. And as long as you illuminate the plant with visible light, that provides the energy to have this just keep running and running and running and running all through the day. So, we're making molecules of NADPH, which are going to be used for the Kelvin cycle. Now, let's talk about this concentration gradient. While this is running, we're building up this concentration gradient. You know, we have a high concentration of hydrogen ions inside the thylakoid compared to the stroma. Well, like we said, anytime you have a concentration difference, whatever the element or ion is wants to move from high to low concentration. So the hydrogen ions inside the thylakoid would love to diffuse out. We have our protein channel, which is this ATPase protein that allows the hydrogen ions to diffuse out. And as they diffuse out, enough energy is liberated to phosphorylate ADP to make ATP. And that ATP, you don't have it labeled, but that ATP is going to be used in the Kelvin cycle also. So we've got our 2 main products that we need for the Kelvin cycle. We've got the reduced form of NADPH, and we've got ATP. And we have a fancy name for this. We call it photosynthetic phosphorylation.
Just this ATP?
Just this, using this chemiosmotic gradient to generate ATP, yeah.
Okay.
It's still chemiosmosis, sort of like with respiration. Now, the other little aspect of the light reaction that I mentioned to you is that photosystem 1 also participates in what is called cyclic electron flow. So that not only is photosystem 1 part of this non-cyclic process, but when light strikes the photosystem, electrons can get ejected and travel through our system of electron carriers and then at the same time return back to photosystem 1. And as they do that, they transport additional hydrogen ions.
Wait, can you say that again?
Yeah. Photosystem 1 not only participates in non-cyclic flow, but cyclic flow. So electrons can be ejected from this photosystem and then pass through our carriers and return back to photosystem 1.
Okay, but then...
And then doing that, we can add to this or supplement this concentration gradient because we're pumping, the electrons are used to transport additional protons from the stroma into the thylakoid. So that just...
So when photosystem 1 is in cyclic flow, then where does the electrons from photosystem 2 go?
Well, it's kind of like a give and take. Photosystem 1 can be, because here's the thing, and my picture doesn't do it justice. Photosystem 1 and photosystem 2 in non-cyclic and cyclic can be happening simultaneously. Kind of like they have to stagger because the electrons are passing down the same electron carriers. They're just being used to pump hydrogen ions across, but they didn't originate in photosystem 2. They originated in photosystem 1. So imagine 2 does its deal, then 1 does the cyclic deal, then 2 does its deal, then 1 does its cyclic deal, kind of alternating like that. So simultaneously you can have both cyclic and non-cyclic working. But the only purpose of cyclic is to just continue to build up this concentration gradient. Yeah.
Okay.
So there we go.
And this is just the light.
And this is called the light reactions or the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis.
Is there anything that must go before this in order for this to happen, or
No.
it just starts?
No, this just starts. When the sun comes up, this
as soon as
just
it gets
starts.
light energy, bam, it goes.
Starts.
Photosystem 1 starts
And once
working.
this starts, then the Kelvin
Photosystem-
cycle can start.
Okay.
Because these products are then going to be used to power the Kelvin cycle.
Okay. So let him talk to them and then we'll record Calvin cycle.
Okay.